idea on me. I look like me. I should be shot, not let into your data center. Come with us. Let us in. Thank you. We'll take everything. Closing one on physical. The physical one's interesting. A lot of companies and a lot of organizations don't want to touch it, but it's one of the faster growing sectors of basically breaches. We've become such a mobile society that the desktops and the laptops that we use are becoming more of the toughest. You guys remember, for crying out loud, you walked into the data center, it had this bloody great big humming computer that you couldn't move unless you had an army of forklifts, for crying out loud. Nowadays, it fits on a bloody iPad. So all I can do is crack the window on your door, grab your iPad and get the heck out of there, and I've got your entire spreadsheet for your entire computer for your organization. And we don't encrypt it, which is simple and free for half the time. So we're definitely getting more and more involved with the physical, because again, with the physical side, if I can break into your organization, I can leave a device there that calls home and now lets me back into your company. Literally, all I have to do is take something about 1/3 of this size into a company, try and plug it into a network jack or a phone somewhere, and walk out. That's all I have to do, and I've broken into your company, and I will siphon off all of your data, and you probably won't know I've done it. Sorry?
Yes. Of the four big browsers, primary browsers, which ones do you think are the least dangerous to use?
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. So of the major browsers, I'm assuming we're talking internet browsers. So the major internet browsers, which would I consider to be the most dangerous versus the least dangerous? Now what's interesting is the obvious geek side goes, oh, do away with Explorer. But I would disagree, because I would say you could make any of the browsers secure as long as you put the settings correctly. If you set Internet Explorer to not allow Java downloads, to not allow third-party things, to not allow secondary cookies, to not allow all these other things, it becomes a very secure browser. No different than Firefox, no different than Safari, no different than Opera, no different than any of the others out there. But the same thing, if you leave Firefox in default mode, it's basically like, woohoo, here's the computer I'm on, please take whatever you would like. What I would say was, take the browser and then take something like an antivirus with a heuristic that also watches your browser traffic. We use Kaspersky mostly at the office, and we've got the internet suite with it. So not only does it watch for antivirus, but it watches the computer and watches my browser traffic to see what the heck it's doing. Goes, you know what? Are you sure you want to do that? So I think any of them can be made secure as long as you go into the options and the optional settings and actually take a little bit of time to understand what the heck is Java, what the heck is Flash, what the heck is Macromedia, and do I really want it? And do I want it to pop up all sorts of other things? Do I want it to suck my data? Do I want my cookies? Do I want it to store my offline content, etc., etc., etc.? Good question though, I like it. Because yeah, the instant response is, do away with Microsoft, they're useless. Well, they all are, you know, if you look properly.
Question about credit card fraud.
Yes. And would you like to know those credit cards?
If you take a look at the fees that we pay,
yes,
it's horrific if you think in terms of how many times the dollar's turned in a year.
Yeah.
You could run the federal government off the credit card fees. That's how big it is.
I didn't realize it was that big, but that's scary.
It's transactional.
Yeah.
Do you have any sense of how much of that expense goes to fraud? I get the feeling that there's huge amounts of fraud that they can't stop, but it's just lumped into some big expense category on an unreasonable, from a citizen's point of view, revenue stream.
So,
any thoughts on what those numbers might be?
Big. So here's so if you take, and there's probably guys that you know as much, if not maybe more than, we might engage, mate. Do we have anybody from the finance industry here? Giddy. All right, so if you look at the major players, MasterCard, Discover, Amex, Visa, it's the big one, isn't it, completely. If you look at those guys, okay, so I'm a vendor, okay, and I use credit cards. Whoops, they've gone. What happens is MasterCard, Visa, and everybody else goes, well, you're the common point of compromise. So they go to your clearing company, be it Chase or Wells or something, they go like, you're fine because they're useless. And Wells will go, well, we're passing it through to you guys. And you go, well, that sucks. And if you're a big enough company, you're going to get fined because you weren't in Safe Harbor, or you weren't in PCI PCI compliance, be one of the 4 major levels of compliance, you'll get a fine from Visa and a fine from MasterCard for, basically $750,000. And then that goes back to these guys. And it comes in and sits in here, and it's meant to deal with fraud. But then the other problem is now these guys are actually seeing fraud transacted on the cards. So then they go back to Chase and they're like, well, we're finding you. And then Chase comes back to you and goes, well, you're responsible for that credit card fraud on that card, and that card, because you were the point of compromise. And you go, well, I guess I have to fight this. So now and it's weird. I mean, the guys here have taken in a fine. Yes, they have to pay on that credit card because it wasn't his problem. He didn't lose it. You lost his credit card. He had fraud on it. He gets compensated by me, but now I'm coming after you for it. I've also already fined you money at the same time as well. And I find you not directly, I find you through whoever clears your finances. So the guy who's taken his credit card has sold it, has made a couple of dollars on it. The guy that's actually gone down to the ATM and actually used his credit card with the PIN number has maybe made a couple $100 per card. And then the other guy that he got sold to that maybe went and charged, actually what we're seeing most of is they're charging groceries for crying out loud. They used to be charging big screen TVs, now they're charging groceries because they need to eat. So, you've got 3 or 4 people racking charges up against his card. I have to pay them, but I'm still coming after you for the money. So, me, from stealing his card benefits, I get my free whatever I get out of it. He's not out any money. From the person that actually is Visa, they are out money, but now they're getting it back from you. They're getting a bit extra. I mean, they're getting the fine, but a lot of that's covering the overhead to actually figure out who the heck's stealing the stuff in the first place.
Any sense what percentage of Visa's operating costs are fraud?
Ooh, no, I honestly don't. I know, no, I don't. I don't. That's a good question. Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I know we do a lot of work with 2 or 3 of the biggest banks out there. And I know their red teams and their blue teams, or internal and some of their external stuff. And I know a lot of the protections they put there. I mean, they spend more than millions, multi-millions trying to combat this. I mean, those are the guys that have the money, which is why if you take a look at fraud, this is the reason we talk about this stuff. If you take a look at the stuff that you are losing, it isn't necessarily just credit cards these days, because the banks are kind of getting harder to break into. So what's happening is we'll break into the hospitals. Why? Because it has been out there for, 8-10 years and it's getting ignored. It's only now got teeth, so all your personal data's got stolen. We'll go break into the schools because your data's there. We'll go break into the churches. I'll go take your data and your identity out of your HOA. Why? Because it's easy. And they've got an escrow system that's sitting there with $10 million on a PC that's got 3 years out of date antivirus. I'll go where the money's easy. Sorry.
Chris, thank you very much.